back again to do a collage for you today, and I did begin by putting a stamped image and some crayon line work on the surface of the canvas just to give me something visual to begin with. And I did pick out papers, which I just pulled out above the canvas. This is painted wax paper, and I just thought I would start with that. I had it on hand. I didn't have any reason regarding color. I have no plan of how to lay it down or what to do with it. I'm just tearing it up and trying to get something on the surface of the canvas just to have something to start with. Color is not even important to me because I know eventually I am going to unify whatever I do using gesso over the complete canvas and then beginning to apply color, the color of my choice. Now, I'm using a magazine here underneath this wax paper. It's painted wax paper, and I'm using matte medium, liquid matte medium. And the magazine, I'm using that because I don't want to get the adhesive on my table and then it getting in the way of me doing the collage. So as I go along and the magazine page gets filled up with adhesive, I just rip the paper off and discard it and go on to the next page to apply my glue. And here you can see the line work showing through the wax paper. And sometimes you will see some of the line work and some of the things that are on the bottom layers, you will see them in the finished collage, but not always and not often. We don't know. It comes as a surprise. And you saw me there, I used wax paper and a brayer to fasten the adhesive better. Now I have another piece of wax paper here, painted wax paper, and certainly this is not a rule, nothing that you have to do. I just felt like doing it. I just felt like playing. So I'm folding the paper and I'm going to cut into it. And I just thought rather than use paint at this time, and I could have used paint if I had wanted to, just wanted to see some sort of a design on the top of the canvas to inspire me. And I do have videos. I have a few videos actually on painted wax paper. And the videos that I share with you are printed painted wax paper. Very lovely prints that you can create and use in various types of artwork. I kind of just like that. It served more as an inspiration than anything else. And it is experimental, so we have no fear of making mistakes because we can always cover up what we don't like. And the main objective is to create something that is unplanned. But as you get closer to the finishing of the work, you do start to think about design more, but at this point, no. Just tear papers, fabric, paint, line work, stamping, whatever you have in your stash that appeals to you, just try it. You can always cover it up if you don't like it. Actually, this piece, some of those circles, two of them do show up in the end collage, although very subtly. I'm using wax paper and a brayer to fasten my paper more securely. And here I just decided to use paint, but you could have added more paper. You could have ripped up different shapes of paper, different colors, different textural papers. You could have even put trim on there if you wanted to, or even fabric. I'm using the woody again to do some line work. No reason, I just felt like it because I love the crayons, just felt like doing it. And then I did outline some of the shapes. No plan, no purpose, just play. And I am going to add paint now to the surface. And when adding the paint or adding a paper, you could fall in love at this point early on with what you see. And sometimes it's hard to tear yourself away from it and to cover it up, but you do. Now, I could love this, or I could just think it's just the worst. But I always remind myself there's more to come. And sometimes I laugh because sometimes you love something underneath the paper so much, it's almost like a masterpiece that you create that you will never see again, but it's a chance you take. And I'm learning right now. As I do this, I am learning myself. As I go along, I observe my own work. I turn it around very frequently. Now, this is a piece of paper. It is quite ugly. And you would say, why does she pick that? And the answer is because it is very textural. And that's why I picked it, and I will be painting over it later, and you won't see that any longer. So I chose it because I like the rumpled paper, the way the folds are in the paper. I just thought it might show up nice. Now this, I did put my adhesive, and it is a gel, a heavier gel because the paper was heavier. I did put it on the canvas and on the other side of the paper, but I edited that part, so you didn't see me do that. And here I fasten again, always. I check the corners. If I see something that needs to be fastened a little better, I do it. Now this is a paper I made years ago, and I have never used any of it. And I pulled it out because I like the texture on this also. It was done with modeling paste and a stencil. And although the color does not go, there's nothing here really that coordinates well. But you will see as the piece evolves how everything is finally unified, color-wise and design-wise. And I also want to mention at this time that although I'm putting two pieces on here because I wanted to add some sort of balance. I didn't want to just have one piece of this textured paper. So I did put the other rectangle piece off to the right on as well. And I put these additional pieces of the same paper so that there would be some kind of repetition. And I tried to balance it a little at this point. I did think about balance a little bit, so I did. And I also was not worried about cutting my pieces straight. Like those rectangles are not straight, and they are actually applied to the surface of the canvas. They are not, they're crooked. They're really not perfect at all, and I don't worry about that. That's not important. We let ourselves go and we create collage and just layer and just keep putting things down and seeing what happens. And if there's something we're not happy with or intuitively that we feel is not balanced, Then we add another piece of paper or we add some paint. And all of these papers that you see me applying right now are being applied with a heavier gel, matte medium, although you could use a gloss. It's totally up to you. You could even use, for the thinner papers, even Elmer's glue or Mod Podge. That's been maybe even watered down if the paper is really thin, like you're using tissue. And so at this point, I'm wondering what this thing is going to look like when I'm finished. Because right now it doesn't make too much sense to me. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the process. And looking forward to the discovery of what the end result will be. Now I'm applying a strip which did not go to the end of the canvas, and I didn't realize it until after I had applied the strip. I looked at it a little bit later and I thought, I'm not comfortable with that. I want to fill in with a smaller piece to carry that strip all the way to the end of the canvas, right there where my finger is. And so I cut a piece, I just eyeballed it. And it's important to know too that you can always piece papers. Always piece them. You'll never know that once you start to apply your gesso and your paint later on. I just felt it made for a better design to carry that through. Now I could have left that and seen what happened to it later. I could have filled it in with paint as I painted the whole textural paper. I could have just extended that with some paint that coordinated with the strip. I could have done that. So it's a choice. And then you'll see me again rotating the canvas, and I do that quite a bit. It's easier for me to handle, and I get fresh perspective every time I rotate the canvas. And then I decided that I needed to bring that heavier brown paper that's underneath the stenciled heavier textural paper that I just glued down. I decided I needed to put some of that same paper there. Thinking balance. I did start to think balance. So as you work, as you continue to work, you start to look at it from a design point of view and perhaps balancing your papers and as you apply them. And this was being applied to such a heavy piece of paper underneath that I really had to make sure that I got the gel medium, a heavy gel medium again, into the crevices. And that's why I just kept putting my brush into the crevices of the paper underneath, making sure that it was fastened well. Getting at those corners again. Always checking the corners so they don't come up later. And I wanted to mention too at this time that I also wanted to extend that strip that I added the piece onto before. I wanted to extend it all the way to the left of the rectangle. So I wanted it to go completely across the entire canvas. So I'm piecing again. And there I go, piecing it again, and I will also add another piece above the rectangle to bring that rectangle to the very edge of the canvas. Not necessary, but it's just the way it struck me. And if you had been working on it, you might have been fine with just leaving it the way it was, and it can turn out beautiful. Just will be your own creation. Now, to unify, I am going to add gesso, and you're going to see how it starts to blend the shapes of the papers and the different colors, making them look like more like unified, more like a composition that is pleasing. But again, there's more work to be done on this, so I'm going to be applying the gesso, and then I'm going to take a break and cover the entire canvas with it. I'm not going to spend the time doing that right now because it would be very boring. But you can see how adding it little by little, and I wanted you to see that, does unify the design. It makes it much more workable. And remember, everybody's collage is different. You may use fabric in yours. You may use lace in yours. And that's the beauty of this art form. I love it so. It's a no-mistake art form. And it offers you an opportunity to be very creative. Okay, so now, there we are. All done. All gessoed. And I have a blank canvas, so to speak, with a design on it. And I'm going to start to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Just like I'm sure you don't know what's going to happen as you watch me. And so just highlighting. Again, liking the purple. I didn't have to go with the purple. I could have gone with a different color if I had wanted to. But I think my reason for choosing that, one of my reasons was that the purple was, or lavender or soft purple was coming through the gesso. I just thought it would be a good thing to do that, but I could have certainly gone into using other colors. And I did go with the green again. I like that combination, even though you couldn't see the green paper under there any longer. And I like, as I'm looking at it, I like those flat areas, those green flat areas, because they provide a quiet space to rest my eyes. Everything can't be textural. I like where I can see some sort of a design because of those flat areas. Just serves to accent the papers, the textural papers. And here I'm using bronze paint. Just thought I would like to highlight some of the raised designs to bring that out. And there is a dark purple mark to the right there that I do eventually get rid of. And I do go over this whole thing. The end collage does not look anything like this. Design-wise, yes. Colors, yes. But I work over it with paint. And it changes the whole complexion of the piece eventually, which was a lot of fun for me to do and quite a challenge too. So know that you can always even remove paint. You can add it. Acrylic paint can be added. Or you can remove it with 91% alcohol. Just take a little soft rag or a piece of paper toweling if there's something you don't like. I could have even taken off that dark little square there that you see now to the left with the alcohol. I just didn't want to stop and do it. But you can. So more versatile. We're very, very versatile with the collages, always. And I use different size brushes. The smaller ones sometimes are nice to work with on the raised design so that you get a better distribution of color. But again, you have to play with it and see. And you can remove the paint if you don't like it. See, there's a wider brush there. And soon I will be moving on to work over the complete canvas, and then I'll get back to you and tell you what I did to it, just to simplify the process for you. But you can see the different steps that we've taken in order to get this far. And I do hope you will try one for yourself. Okay, now I decided to start using the woodies again. And there is the design that I originally cut. You can barely see it, but it's the circle from the cutout wax paper, purple wax paper, and it did happen to show through. I didn't do that on purpose, just happened that way, which adds to the layering of the work and makes the work more interesting. I set aside the canvas for several days to get a fresh perspective. Then I added additional paint over the entire canvas where I felt it was needed. I added purple paint over the outer edges, and where you see me pointing, I deepened those green areas with additional green paint. Then I got rid of that dark purple area that I hadn't originally liked. I took the bronze paint and ran my fingers over the textured areas to enhance those raised areas. And then I applied a Liquitex semi-gloss liquid medium to seal and deepen the colors. Here I'm just moving the canvas around a little, just to give you the idea that I could have looked at this canvas from a completely different perspective. I could have turned it completely around, but settled on this one. I liked it the best. So I do hope you'll try one of your own. Just remember, gather everything you have, lace, paper, paint, fabric, and just layer, layer, layer until you get something that you're happy with. I do hope you'll try one of your own, and I also hope you enjoyed the process. And I look forward to seeing you again. Bye now.